In this video, we're going to talk about aperture and shutter speed. We discussed aperture in the lesson on lenses, so here's a recap. Aperture refers to the opening of the lens's diaphragm through which light passes. It's calibrated in f-stops and is generally written as numbers such as 1.4, 2, 2.8, 4, 5.6, 8, 11, and 16. Lower f-stops give more exposure because they represent the larger apertures, while the higher f-stops give less exposure because they represent smaller apertures. This may seem a little contradictory at first, but will become clear as you take pictures at varying f-stops. Basically, all you need to know is the lower the aperture, the brighter the photos. The reason a low aperture is important in real estate photography is some of the homes you shoot will be dark and you want the lens to let in as much light as possible in order to capture as much detail as possible. But a lower aperture creates background blur called bokeh. Typically, you would want background blur when shooting headshots or portraits. You're usually tighter on the subject. In real estate photography, because you're shooting so wide, everything will be in focus most of the time. But be careful, if your focus point is too close to the camera, the rest of the room may become slightly out of focus when you shoot at a low aperture. Try to choose focus points in the middle of the room. The last setting you should be familiar with is shutter speed. Shutter speed refers to the amount of time that the camera's shutter is open when you take a picture. The longer the shutter is open, the more light passes through the camera sensor. I don't really worry about shutter speed while shooting real estate. If you were shooting action sports, for example, shutter speed would be really important because your subject would be moving quickly. You would want to make sure that your shutter speed is very low. If you were shooting at a high shutter speed, your subject would end up blurry. In real estate photography, nothing is moving, so shutter speed is not as important. So that's it for camera settings. If you have any questions, let me know. And remember, keep shooting. Swish.